What's going on, Trailblazers? Sam here, back at it again for another video. And in today's video, I wanted to give my thoughts on Blade and whether or not I think he's worth summoning for. Now, before we get into, his kit, some advanced techniques, and also some ideal team comps for him, I just want to say you should always go for whatever character you want. At the end of the day, this is a video game. It's meant to be fun. You should always go for whichever character is going to improve your enjoyment of the game. But that being said, if you are kind of on the fence and you're struggling with, is he going to be a good pickup? I hope this video helps your discernment process. So let's get into it. Now, let's start off with his kit. Now, obviously, Blade is a 5-star wind destruction character who specializes in dealing damage. But what's unique about Blade is that, for one, he has pretty significant scaling off his HP, and he reduces his HP in order to do more damage. Sound familiar? Hootao! Now, starting off with his basic attack, it's just called Charge Sword. Whoa, tongue twister. And it just deals a percentage of Blade's attack as wind damage to a single enemy. But his skill, Hellscape, consumes 30% of his HP, and you immediately advance your action forward by 100%. And the damage increases by 12%, and your basic attack becomes Forest of Swords for 3 turns. Now, when you have Forest of Swords activated, you cannot use your skill, and if your HP is insufficient, you will drop down to 1 HP. So, kind of like Arlen, if you don't have the HP threshold necessary for his skill, you're going to drop down to 1 HP. This is really nice because you're still always going to be able to use his skill kind of regardless of his HP. But when you're in this Hellscape, your auto attacks are going to be, or your basic attacks are going to be enhanced. And they're going to do enhanced damage to not only a single target, but also adjacent enemies as well. Now, this is a really unique ability. Like I said, it's kind of like Hu Tao's skill, and you reduce your HP, and then you do more damage. So obviously, when you use the skill, you have to use a skill point. But when you're doing the advanced basic attacks, they actually don't regenerate skill points. At least from what I saw in the live stream. Obviously, this could be subject to change, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw. Now, if we go over to his talent, Shu Hu's gift, every time he takes damage, Blade gains 1 charge for 3 turns, up to 5 stacks. Now, when the maximum charges are acquired, he's going to immediately unleash a follow-up attack. Very important to note that this is a follow-up attack. So for any buffs pertaining to follow-up attacks, whether that be from characters or in the simulated universe, they will apply to this attack. And it's going to deal damage based on his attack, HP, and then also HP lost while in the battle. So what's really unique about this skill is not only is it taking in his HP, his attack, but it's also taking in HP lost in the battle. So that's why I said it's really important that not only does he have high HP, aka you'll probably want to run an HP body on him, but you'll also want to make sure, and this kind of gets into his team comps, that he's getting hit. So for, shielding characters like March or even Japard, it's probably not going to be ideal to run them with Blade because you want him to get hit. You want him to take damage in order for him to gain, his stacks as quickly as possible. That way he does this enhanced follow-up attack that does considerable wind damage to all enemies. Now, if we jump on over to his ultimate, Death Sentence, what a wicked cool name, it just deals damage of Blade's attack plus his HP as wind damage to an enemy and adjacent targets as well. It scales off his HP, like I said, but what's unique about his burst is it actually takes his health to 50%, and obviously, if you don't have 50% HP, it will actually heal you. So it's a pretty unique skill. Again, it's very reminiscent, and his kit is very reminiscent of Hu Tao's kit, in my opinion. His skill reduces his HP in order for him to do more damage, and his burst is kind of like a get out of jail free card, if you will. Like if you have really low HP and maybe you're running him with Luocha and Luocha's auto heals have expired, you can go ahead and use Blade's burst in order to heal you in a pickle. So that's kind of the crux of his kit. All in all, I think it's a really unique kit. Um, I think he's going to be a really strong DPS. I do have a little bit of concerns if maybe you've invested a lot into Dan Hung. Dan Hung is a pretty good 4-star wind DPS, but obviously Blade will be, superior because he is a 5-star, but how much more superior? I don't really know. Haven't been able to, test him obviously and see all of his scalings, but for someone like myself that hasn't invested into Dan Hung too much, I am very interested in Blade. I am very keen to have, DPSs from each element, just so when MOC swaps every time, I have characters that can deal pretty good break to all the enemies. Now, as far as his banner is concerned, I would say Blade's banner, it's pretty solid. If I was gonna rate it out of 10, it would probably be a 7 out of 10. We have Arlen, we have Sushan, and we have Natasha. Arlen, kind of an interesting character. He kind of has some similarities to Blade himself, and the fact that he doesn't consume skill points, he just consumes his HP. And if you do get E6 Arlen, he can be kind of strong and kind of carry you, but not a character that I'm super keen or excited about. Now Sushan, I do really like Sushan. Obviously, she is a phenomenal 4-star physical DPS. She has really good eidolons if you're able to get her E2, E4, and E6. She definitely ramps up pretty quickly. So I wouldn't be bothered. I wouldn't mind getting more copies of Sushan. And then Natasha, obviously, Natasha kind of dropped down a few rungs because Luocha is a significantly better healer. But for those of you that don't have Luocha or weren't fortunate enough to get him, obviously Natasha is a good healer. And the more eidolons you get of her, her scaling and her healing will get better. So all in all, a pretty decent banner. Not a groundbreaking banner by any means, but I think if you're going for Blade, it's not going to be a crippling banner. I don't think it's going to hurt you in the long run. Now, moving on over to his team comps, I kind of touched upon it earlier. Blade is a DPS character, so you're definitely going to want to run, Harmony characters with her that will boost his attack, whether that's Asta. I think Asta would be a really good support for him. Obviously, Yukong can be a good support for him. Maybe a little bit more niche, but obviously, Branya would be a good support for him. Ting Yun, but what I mentioned about shield characters, you'll definitely not want to run March 7th with him or Japard or maybe even Fire MC because you really want Blade to get hit. You want him to take damage. That way he builds up his stacks as quickly as possible. So I think if you were planning on using a shielder with him, that's going to be a big no-no, and I think it's going to kind of impede his overall damage. Now, a character I think is going to synergize very well with Blade is obviously Luocha. I've seen, footage back from the closed beta test of, Blade and Luocha pretty much duoing every piece of content in the game. Obviously, the game was significantly easier in the closed beta, I have to presume. But obviously, I think those characters are going to be very cracked. They have really good synergy. Blade wants to, lower his HP as quickly as possible, but Luocha has auto healing built in, so you can kind of auto cycle with Blade and Luocha. And Luocha is very, skill point friendly, aka skill point neutral, because when he has his field up, you're really only normaling with Luocha. So you're always going to want to have Blade's, enhanced basic attacks up. That's really, the crux of his kit and his damage, I would say. Everything else is kind of supplemental. But I think Luocha will be a phenomenal character for him. Bailu obviously will be good as well. And I think one of Bailu's traces actually boosts the HP of your teammates. So obviously, the more HP Blade has, the more damage he will do. But that's pretty much it. I think I covered all I would want to say about this character. I think he's a super cracked character. I think he looks awesome. Damon Mills is a very cool VA if you're planning on playing in English. My takeaway is I'm very on the fence. So Kafka, I think, and I'm gonna probably make a video on Kafka herself, but I think Kafka has more long-term viability. I think damage over time has a lot more versatility in the long run, and I just think maybe it could be better for free-to-play players because right now we're still very early stages, and some of us might be struggling to do damage and clear MOC, not only surviving it but also doing enough damage to clear it in a certain amount of waves. So I really think damage over time could be kind of meta going forward, but I do think Blade is a very strong character. Obviously, we don't have a lot of win characters. He has AoE built into his kit. He's HP scaling. So I think he's gonna be really cracked. I'm kind of leaning towards trying to get him. And then if I lose the 50-50, obviously I have guaranteed Kafka. But that's pretty much it. I think I covered what I wanted to, and I hope this video helps. I hope it helps you make a decision. But at the end of the day, you should always go for whatever character you want. You shouldn't be pressured by any content creators that you see. But comment down below. Are you going for Blade? Is he a hard skip? Are you going for Mommy Kafka? Or is 1.2 a complete skip for you and you're going to go for King Dan Hung or Fu Shuan? But I appreciate you guys all so much, as always, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.